First contact and fascination. Dr. Zara Vex stood motionless before the holographic display, her four eyes widening in disbelief as she reviewed the data for the 12th time. The numbers couldn't be right. In her 3 centuries as chief reproductive specialist for the Galactic Science Council, she had never encountered anything like this. Computer, verify reproductive capacity scan of species 47,291. Designation human. One more time, she commanded, her voice trembling slightly. The artificial intelligence hummed softly as it processed her request. Scan verified, Dr. Vex. Human reproductive capabilities remain consistent with previous analyses. Average human male produces approximately 200 million gametes per day. Fertility window remains constant throughout the solar cycle. Reproductive capacity begins at physical maturation and continues for approximately 60 solar cycles. Zara's tentacles curled in agitation. Among the 1,000 spacefaring species in the known galaxy, the average male produced perhaps a few hundred gametes during designated mating seasons. The most fertile species they had encountered before humans managed perhaps 1,000. But millions? Every day. It was unprecedented. She glanced through the observation window at the human settlement below. From her cloaked research vessel in orbit around Earth, the humans appeared remarkably ordinary, bipedal primates going about their daily routines, completely unaware of their biological uniqueness. Administrator Krell needs to see this immediately, she muttered, compiling her findings into a report. Her superior had originally questioned the value of studying this newly discovered pre-FTL species. Now she had evidence that humans might be the most reproductively gifted species in the known galaxy. The door to her lab whispered open, admitting her research partner, Dr. Nyx Tor. The crystalline being's facets flickered with concern as they approached. Zara, you've been in here for 3 cycles straight. Have you found something concerning about the humans? Concerning? Nyx, I found something impossible. She gestured to the displays surrounding them. Look at these numbers. Their reproductive capacity exceeds anything we've ever seen by orders of magnitude. And it's not just the quantity. Their biological diversity, their adaptive capabilities, their genetic resilience, it's extraordinary. Nyx's crystalline form pulsed with surprise as they absorbed the data. But how is this possible? The energy requirements alone should be. I know, Zara interrupted. By all our models, it shouldn't be possible. And yet here they are, an entire species of reproductive powerhouses, completely unaware of how unique they are in the galaxy. She pulled up additional displays showing human population growth over their recorded history. Look at this. Despite disease, warfare, and countless natural disasters, their numbers have grown exponentially. Most species would have faced extinction from half the challenges they've endured. Nyx moved closer to the window, studying the human city below. Do you think this is why they've survived? Their sheer reproductive resilience. It's more than that, Zara said softly. Their genetic diversity is unprecedented. Most species have a narrow band of viable combinations, but humans. She pulled up a DNA comparison chart. They can produce viable offspring with an incredibly wide range of genetic variations. It's as if they were designed to adapt and survive. A priority alert flashed across her screens. Administrator Krell requesting an immediate conference. Zara took a deep breath, her tentacles smoothing themselves in preparation for what would surely be an intense discussion. The council needs to know about this, she said to Nyx, especially now with so many species facing reproductive decline. Humans could be the key to saving countless civilizations, assuming they're willing to help once we make contact, Nyx pointed out. We don't even know how they'll react to learning they're not alone in the universe. Zara looked down at the bustling city again, watching the humans go about their lives, blissfully unaware of the galactic significance of their biological capabilities. We need to proceed carefully, she agreed. The implications of this discovery. They could reshape the entire power structure of the galaxy. Some species will see humans as saviors. Others will view them as a threat, and the humans themselves. She shook her head. How do you tell a species they're essentially the galaxy's most fertile beings? The conference alert chimed again, more urgently this time. Zara straightened her research robes and headed for the door, her mind racing with the possibilities and dangers ahead. One thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same once this information became public. Record personal log, she said as she walked. Day 147 of Earth observation. We have confirmed that humans possess reproductive capabilities that exceed all known galactic standards. Recommendation: immediate classification as a protected species and preparation for diplomatic contact. The future of countless species may depend on how we handle this discovery. The door closed behind her, leaving Nyx alone at the window. Below, the human couple walked hand in hand through a park, completely unaware that they were being observed by beings who had just discovered their species' extraordinary gift, a gift that might just save the galaxy. The fertility crisis. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Science Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 300 species packed the massive amphitheater, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of colors, shapes, and textures. The air hummed with tension and whispered conversations in countless languages. Administrator Krell, their crystalline form gleaming under the chamber's lights, stood at the central podium. Behind them, a massive hologram displayed the comparative reproductive rates of known spacefaring species, with humanity's bar towering above all others. The data is conclusive, Krell announced, their voice resonating through the chamber, and it confirms our worst fears. The galaxy-wide fertility decline is accelerating. In the past century alone, average reproduction rates across all advanced species have dropped by 63%. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. Dr. Zora Vex, seated in the front row, noticed several delegates physically recoil at the numbers. She couldn't blame them. Her own research had predicted a decline, but nothing this severe. The Artaxians have reported their first zero birth year, Krell continued, triggering gasps from the assembly. The Mirth have seen their population decrease by half in just 3 generations. Even the crystalline collective, my own people, are struggling to maintain minimum viable numbers. The hologram shifted, showing a projection of population decline across the galaxy. Red zones of extinction risk covered nearly a third of the map. But there is hope, Krell said, their tone brightening. Dr. Vex, please share your findings about species 47,291. Zara rose and approached the podium, her tentacles steady despite her racing hearts. She had practiced this presentation countless times, but the stakes felt overwhelming. The future of countless civilizations might depend on how well she conveyed her discovery. Humans, she began, are unlike anything we've encountered. While our species evolved toward efficiency in reproduction, humans maintained an almost primitive abundance. Their reproductive capabilities aren't just unusual, they're extraordinary. The hologram changed to show human reproductive cells. A single human male produces more viable gametes in one day than most species produce in a year. Their genetic diversity is unprecedented, allowing for remarkable adaptation and resilience. But most importantly, she paused, knowing her next words would change everything. Their reproductive system appears immune to the degradation affecting our species. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demanded verification, argued with their neighbors. Zara waited for Krell to restore order before continuing. We've analyzed their genetic structure extensively. There's something unique in their DNA, a resilience we don't fully understand yet. While our species became more advanced, something in our evolution compromised our reproductive capabilities. Humans somehow avoided this trade-off. A delegate from the Silicon Worlds raised their energy appendage. Are you suggesting we could learn from their primitive biology? That we should regress? Not regress, Zara corrected. Adapt. Human DNA contains sequences that could potentially be used to restore our own reproductive capabilities. With their help, we might be able to reverse the fertility decline. Another delegate, a floating cloud of ionized gas, pulsed with concern. And have these humans agreed to share their genetic material? Do they even know we exist? The chamber grew quiet. Zara exchanged glances with Krell before responding. Humans are pre-FTL. They don't know about the wider galaxy yet, which brings us to our most difficult challenge. How do we approach them? We take what we need, growled a reptilian delegate from the outer rim. They're primitive. We have the technology. That would be a catastrophic mistake, Zara shot back. Humans may be pre-FTL, but they're far from helpless. Our studies show them to be remarkably adaptable, creative, and aggressive when threatened. More importantly, we need their cooperation to understand how their reproductive system works. Forced extraction would likely fail. Krell stepped forward. The Council has already ruled out any aggressive approach. We are scientists, not pirates. However, the crisis is real and accelerating. We need to make contact soon. The hologram shifted again, showing the human city. We propose a gradual approach. Small contacts at first, preparing their population for the reality of galactic civilization. Then, once they're ready, we reveal the truth about their unique capabilities and our need for their help. And if they refuse, someone called from the back. Zara turned to face the assembly. Then we face extinction with our principles intact. But I don't believe they'll refuse. In all our observations, humans have shown a remarkable capacity for empathy, even toward other species. They may be our last hope, but they're also possibly our best hope. As the chamber broke into discussion groups, Zara returned to her seat. Through the massive window behind the podium, she could see Earth glowing like a blue jewel in the distance. Somewhere down there, billions of humans were going about their lives, unaware that they held the key to saving galactic civilization. She just hoped they would be ready for the responsibility when the time came. Cultural clash. The observation lab aboard the GSS Seeker had been transformed into what Dr. Zara Vex's team called the Human Understanding Center. Holographic displays showed scenes from around Earth, families gathering for meals, couples on dates, children playing in parks, medical facilities where human reproduction was assisted and monitored. I still don't understand, said Ambassador Exerx of the Hive Collective, their compound eyes reflecting the images. If they're so fertile, why do they limit their reproduction? With their capabilities, they could have trillions by now. Zara adjusted the display to show human population graphs. That's what makes them truly fascinating. They've developed cultural and social structures to manage their reproductive potential. They don't just breed indiscriminately. They form complex emotional bonds, plan their families, and invest heavily in raising each offspring. Inefficient, Exerx chittered. In the hive, with all respect, Ambassador, Dr. Nix interrupted, their crystalline form pulsing with subtle irritation. That kind of thinking is exactly why we're struggling to proceed with contact. We keep trying to understand humans through our own cultural lenses. The displays shifted to show human entertainment media, romantic movies, family dramas, celebrations of birth and marriage. Look at how much of their culture revolves around pair bonding and family units. They've built entire societal structures around it. We can't just ignore that. A new alert flashed across the screens. Zara's tentacles curled with concern as she read it. The Procreation Coalition is making another push in the Council. They want to accelerate the contact timeline. Fools. Nex's crystals darkened. They'll ruin everything. Humans are already detecting our observation ships. Their technology is advancing faster than predicted. If we rush this... The lab door slid open, admitting Administrator Krell. Their usually brilliant crystalline form seemed dulled with exhaustion. It's worse than that. We've detected unauthorized ships entering the solar system. Some species are getting desperate. Zara felt her heart stink. Which ones? The Artaxians sent a genetic sampling team. The Mirth are preparing a first contact mission of their own. Even the Silicon Worlds, who initially opposed the whole project, have ships on the way. Krell moved to the window, watching Earth rotate below. We're losing control of the situation. Show them the pair bonding research, Nix suggested. The cultural implications. They don't care, Krell interrupted. You've seen the latest fertility numbers. The Artaxians haven't had a successful birth in 3 cycles. The Mirth population is below sustainable levels. They're desperate, and desperate species don't care about cultural sensitivity. Zara pulled up her latest research findings. But that's exactly why we need to be careful. Look at human history. Every time they've faced an external threat, they've united against it. If multiple alien species suddenly appear, making demands about their reproductive capabilities, they'll see it as an invasion. Nix finished, and they'll fight. The room fell silent as they watched scenes of human military exercises play across the screens. For a pre-FTL species, their weapons were remarkably advanced, and their history showed an impressive ability to rapidly develop new technologies when threatened. There's something else, Krell said quietly. The genetic research team has finished their preliminary analysis of human DNA. It's not what we expected. Zara moved to the data terminal. As she read the report, her tentacles went rigid with shock. This can't be right. These sequences, they look engineered. Engineered by whom? Turks demanded. We don't know, Krell admitted. But it appears humans didn't evolve their reproductive capabilities naturally. Someone, long ago, designed them this way. The implications hit them all at once. Humans weren't just unusual. They might be the product of ancient genetic engineering, a species created to be fertile, adaptable, and resilient. The question is, Nex said, their crystalline form flickering with complex emotions. Were they designed to save us or replace us? Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. On the displays, multiple ships dropped out of FTL on the edges of the solar system. The Artaxian fleet had arrived early. Zara. Krell turned to her, their form pulsing with urgent colors. You know humans better than anyone. How do you think they'll react when they detect those ships? Zara watched as more alerts appeared, showing human military installations beginning to track the incoming vessels. Their response time was impressive. They'd already noticed something was wrong. They'll do what they always do, she said grimly. They'll unite against the perceived threat. And if the Artaxians try to force the issue, she shook her head. We may be about to witness why a species engineered for fertility was also given such a strong drive to protect their young. On the screens, human military forces worldwide went to high alert. The species that had never faced alien contact was preparing for what they could only assume was an invasion, and they were preparing with remarkable efficiency. We need to intervene, Zara decided. Not first contact as we planned, but emergency diplomatic intervention. Because if we don't, she gestured at the tactical displays showing more ships arriving. We might be about to turn humanity's first contact into humanity's first interstellar war. The genetic key. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from every major world power sat in stunned silence as they processed what Dr. Zara Vex had just told them. The holographic displays floating above the table showed irrefutable evidence of multiple alien ships in Earth's orbit. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, said Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's hastily appointed xenobiological representative. You're saying that humanity's reproductive capabilities are unique in the galaxy, and now multiple alien species are here because they're facing extinction. Correct. Zara's tentacles moved in what she hoped was a reassuring gesture. And more importantly, we believe humans were deliberately engineered to have these capabilities. The room erupted in murmurs. Administrator Krell stepped forward, their crystalline form catching the light. Our analysis of human DNA shows clear signs of artificial optimization. The sequences responsible for your reproductive efficiency are too perfect to have evolved naturally. General Jackson of the U.S. Joint Chiefs leaned forward. Are you suggesting we're some kind of Genetic weapon. Not a weapon, Zara corrected quickly. More like a key, or perhaps a backup system. We believe whoever engineered humans did so to preserve life in the galaxy. They must have foreseen the fertility crisis we're now facing. On the screens, more ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Artaxian fleet had grown to 30 vessels, with more arriving hourly. The Mirth and Silicon worlds weren't far behind. And these other aliens, the Russian president spoke through a translator. They want to harvest us. They want to study you. Nix explained, their crystalline form pulsing with diplomatic colors. To understand how your reproductive system works and possibly adapt it to save their own species. But they're desperate, and desperate species don't always make wise choices. Dr. Chen studied the genetic data floating before her. This is fascinating. These sequences, they're not just about fertility. They're about adaptability, resilience. It's like we were designed to be universal genetic donors. Exactly. Zora moved to the genetic display. Human DNA contains what we believe are universal compatibility markers. Theoretically, your genetic material could be used to help any species restore their reproductive capabilities. You're not just fertile. You're designed to help others become fertile again. But why us? The Chinese premier's question hung in the air. Why Earth? Krull's form shifted thoughtfully. We have a theory. Earth is unusual in the galaxy. Highly variable climate, diverse ecosystems, frequent natural disasters. If you wanted to create a species that could adapt to anything, that could pass that adaptability on to others, this would be the perfect testing ground. General Jackson stood abruptly. Testing ground or not, we can't just let alien fleets surround our planet. We need to prepare for defensive action. That would be a mistake, Zara said firmly. The Artaxians alone have technology centuries ahead of Earth's. A military confrontation would be devastating for everyone. Then what do you suggest? The British Prime Minister asked. We just surrender our genetic material to whoever demands it. No, Krull stepped forward. We propose a cooperative program. Controlled, ethical research under human oversight. Your species helps save others, but on your terms. We believe this is what your designers intended, not forced extraction, but willing cooperation. Dr. Chen had been quiet, studying the genetic displays. These markers, they're like locks, aren't they? The sequences won't work properly unless they're given willingly. That's why force wouldn't work. Zara's tentacles rippled with excitement. You see it. Yes, that's exactly what we believe. The engineering is brilliant. The very act of forcing the genetic material would render it useless. Only willing donation would preserve the key sequences. More alerts flashed across the screens. The Artaxian fleet was moving closer, ignoring diplomatic warnings. We don't have much time, Krull announced. Humanity needs to make a choice. Will you help us establish a cooperative program, or should we prepare for conflict? Dr. Chen stood, addressing the room. As a scientist, I'm fascinated by what we could learn. As a human, I'm proud that we might have been designed to help others. But this isn't a decision we can make alone. Then let us help you explain it to your people, Zara offered. Let us show them what's at stake, what they were potentially designed to do. Humans have always risen to great challenges. This may be the greatest one yet. The Secretary General of the UN raised his hand for attention. We need time to discuss this, to inform our populations, to make a considered decision. Unfortunately, Nex pointed to the tactical displays. Time is the one thing we don't have. The Artaxians will reach Earth orbit in less than 6 hours. We need to show them humanity has chosen cooperation, or they may force the issue. The room fell silent again as Earth's leaders faced perhaps the most important decision in human history. Their species had been engineered with a purpose, to help save life in the galaxy. Now they had to decide whether to embrace that purpose or reject it. And they had 6 hours to decide. A new galactic future. 5 years after humanity's first contact, The Global Genetic Cooperation Center in Geneva had become the most important scientific facility in the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at its heart, watching as human volunteers worked alongside alien scientists in perfectly harmonized teams. Another successful adaptation, she announced, reviewing the latest results. Beside her, Dr. Zara Vex's tentacles rippled with joy. The Artaxian birth rates have increased by 300% using the new protocols. And they said it couldn't be done, Zara replied, remembering those tense hours 5 years ago when humanity made its choice. Your species continues to amaze us. The decision to help hadn't been unanimous at first, but when humans learned they had been engineered specifically to assist other species, something remarkable happened. Instead of feeling used or manipulated, they felt purposeful. Their unique capabilities weren't just an accident. They were a gift meant to be shared. Ambassador Exarch's report just came in, Dr. Nix announced, their crystalline form glowing with excitement as they entered the lab. The first generation of hive offspring using human-derived genetic modifications has reached maturity. All of them are fertile. Through the vast windows of the facility, Earth glowed blue and green in the afternoon sun. Hundreds of ships from various species orbited the planet now, but no longer as potential threats. They were there to learn, to cooperate, and to receive the help they desperately needed. You know what impresses me most? Administrator Krell said, joining the group. It's not just the scientific success. It's how humans transformed this crisis into an opportunity for galactic unity. They were right. The Global Genetic Cooperation Center wasn't just a research facility. It was the heart of a new galactic civilization. Humans had insisted that any species receiving help must first sign the Galactic Cooperation Accord, pledging peaceful coexistence and mutual aid. The latest numbers are in. Sarah pulled up a holographic display. We've helped restore fertility to 27 species so far. Another 43 are in various stages of the adaptation process. And the success rate is increasing as we better understand the mechanisms. And to think the Artaxians wanted to take this by force, Zara mused. They never understood that the very act of forcing it would have made it useless. Sarah smiled, remembering those early days. The Artaxian fleet had been prepared to attack, believing they could simply take what they needed. But when humanity announced its willing cooperation, everything changed. The engineered safeguards in human DNA meant that only freely given genetic material could be successfully adapted for other species. Our ancestors were clever, she said, studying the complex genetic sequences on display. They didn't just give us the ability to help. They made sure we had to choose to do it. Through another window, they could see the newly constructed Galactic University campus, where students from hundreds of species came to learn about genetics, biology, and the art of adaptation. Humanity's scientific knowledge had advanced decades in just a few years, spurred by cooperation with alien species. The real breakthrough, Nix observed, wasn't just the genetic modifications. It was understanding why humans were designed with such strong family bonds, such complex emotional connections. Because it was never just about the mechanics of reproduction. Sarah nodded. It was about teaching other species how to nurture life, how to create environments where new generations could thrive. A group of Artaxian scientists passed by, their once aggressive demeanor replaced by respectful cooperation. They had learned, as had all species, that humanity's gift wasn't just biological, it was cultural. We've received another dozen applications for the adaptation program, Krell announced, checking their communications, including 3 species we thought were too proud to ever ask for help. Accept them all, Sarah said without hesitation. That's what we were designed for, isn't it? To help life continue, to help it thrive. As the sun set over Geneva, casting golden light across the facility, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. Humanity had gone from a pre-FTL civilization to the center of galactic cooperation in just 5 years. Their fertility wasn't just a biological quirk, it was the key to a new era of galactic civilization. You know what the best part is? She said to her alien colleagues, "We're just getting started. Every species we help adds their own knowledge to the pool. We're not just saving civilizations, we're creating something entirely new." Outside, the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Among them were thousands of worlds where new life was being born, where species once facing extinction were growing again, all thanks to humanity's willingness to share their genetic gift. To think, Zora mused, whoever engineered humans must have known this day would come. They created you not just to survive, but to help others survive. And you've exceeded every expectation. Sarah watched as another ship descended toward the landing pads, carrying more volunteers, more scientists, more species seeking help and offering cooperation in return. "That's what humans do," she said simply. "We adapt, we grow, and we help others do the same." In the vastness of space, Earth shone like a beacon of hope for countless civilizations. Humanity had found its purpose in the galaxy, not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians of life itself. The fertility crisis that had threatened to end so many species had instead given birth to something greater, a truly united galaxy, working together to ensure that life, in all its forms, would continue to thrive among the stars.